Shalom, shalom. Greetings to all of you. Welcome back to the grand finale of the teaching on the Unveiling of Ha'Mishkan, the Unveiling of the Tabernacle. We are going to be talking about, on this day, the Ark of the Covenant, also known as the Ark of the Testimony. All right. I pray that you all are well. I pray that you all are blessed. I pray that you all are prosperous, that you are victorious in all things, that you are healed and delivered, set free from bondage. I pray that you are abundantly being blessed, that you're walking in abundance. That is my prayer for you. I'm excited today because this is the grand finale. A lot of you probably wondering what I mean by that. Am I talking about the final teaching for this particular series, or am I talking about my final teaching on the way on Facebook, period? It remains to be seen. Just know that I don't move unless I see Yahweh move. And I take my orders directly from Him, okay, especially in spiritual matters. So, to answer that question, I will be scarce, and for a good reason. There's a lot of word on Facebook. There's a lot of preaching, teaching, prophesying, decreeing, declaring, encouraging, warning, rebuking, playing spiritual Bible, church police, so on and so forth. But I just want you all to be assured that my presence on Facebook, my presence on the way, has never been about me. It's never been about my so-called agenda. I have no agenda, okay? My agenda is that of Yahweh and Yeshua's. And I have no desire to be famous. I have no desire to have or receive glory, because I deflect all glory to Yah. I am here to give Him glory. And just want to let you all know that I pray always for you guys and gals, and I want nothing but the best for you. I want you to grow. I want you to grow. I want you to grow. I want you to be disciplined. I want you to become disciplined students. I want you to become intellectual property of heaven. I want you all to be able to do your own research, to excavate the scriptures, to go in and out of the Bible, to go without the outside of the boundaries of the Bible or Christendom, and seek being led by Ruach HaKodesh and not by yourself or anyone else. So that is my presence here, to make students, to make disciples of you all, to make you all into strong women of God, strong men of God, strong children of God, to be self-sufficient, so that you won't have to depend upon another man or a woman for a word, for encouragement, for prophecy, for direction. Yes, God has given us people over us. We have leaders over us, and we submit unto those leaders. Okay, and we follow those leaders, all right, as long as they follow Christ. But at the same time, you need to be self-sufficient, so that you won't have to bombard your leaders, so that you'll know how to do your own research, make your own bread, okay? And that's what I've been here for. So all of these teachings about the tabernacle have not been like the teaching, all right, or the only teaching, or the only correct or right teaching, or the right revelation. No. All of the teachings here on the way, referring to everything I've ever taught, but exclusively concerning Ha'Mishkan, has been supplementary information, revelation. These teachings have been merely supplements, okay, to supplement the knowledge that you already have on the subject, to supplement the knowledge that you will get, that you will acquire, that you will obtain for yourselves as you continue to study and do your own research. So by no stretch of the imagination have I come even alluding to the fact that all of the teachings that I have taught are the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and there is no other truth. No, I don't have a monopoly on the truth. I'm only here to supplement what you already have. I'm only here to supplement what you have yet to acquire. All right? All right, so there's been a lot of teachings. People have written many, many books on this subject, but I'm giving you what the Lord has given to me. And you should also know that I'm only breaking off a piece of bread on each teaching. You're not getting the whole loaf. You're only getting a portion, all right? Because I can't teach everything the Lord showed me. I have to preserve some things for later. And a lot of you can't bear the things that I'm seeing right now. You can't. I don't want to insult your intelligence, because I know you're all intelligent, spiritual people. You're educated. You are there, okay? But I promise you, the things that I've been seeing, you won't be able to bear it right now. Okay, you're not. No, not now. But you will. You will, okay? Because you have the capacity, the spiritual capacity to hold the things, the weight of Yahweh. But timing is of the essence. It's very important. And this is not the season to eat the whole loaf. You can only you can only be served a portion right now. Okay? And before I get into this teaching, because I'm promising you, this is my last teaching, so I'm going to be here for a while. I'm not going to say I'm not going to be before you long. No. I'm going to be here for a minute. So if you have to go and catch the rest of it later, I'll understand. Okay? But I got to be here for a minute, because some of the things that I'm going to go over today is going to change the very track of your thought progression. It's going to mess up a lot of your theology. I'm going to bombard your psyche with revelation come from heaven. And God is going to begin to sow seeds, and you're going to see things like you've never seen them before. You're going to ask questions that you never thought of asking before. Yeah, it's that type of teaching. Okay, so, and again, humbly, under the mighty hand of Yahweh, I'm just a servant. I don't know any more than you do. I don't claim to know the Bible in totality. Yes, I have read the Bible multiple times. Yes, I've gone to Bible college and seminary. Yes, I've studied in a structured, professional environment by men and women of God, taught by men and women of God who was filled with the Holy Ghost. Yes, I have studied among the best. Yes, I have traveled all over the world. I have talked and conversed immensely and traded thoughts and not beliefs, but ideas and things with Muslim imams, with those who were Buddhists, monks. I've talked to, Confucians. I've talked to, oh my God, witches, Satanists. I've talked to 5%ers, the fruit of Islam. I've talked, and conversed, oh my God, with Taoists, with shamans, with Indian, Native American shamans, holy men. I've talked with people that you probably only seen on TV or read about. And I don't put everything that I do on Facebook. That's something about me. You will not see a chronology of my activity. I'm not going to, show all that stuff, because a lot of stuff, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing more than I show on Facebook. So just know that I'm busy. I'm doing the work of the Lord. Souls are being won to Christ. The kingdom is being built within people. And Satan and his trickery and his treachery, Satan and his deception is being bombarded by the kingdom of Yah. Light is winning. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so now, here we are. Here we are. I'm excited. Wow. Okay, so I'm not going to go over, like normally I would do a review and say, yeah, we started in the outer courts, we've gone through this and that. No, I'm not going to do all that. If you want to see these previous teachings, go ahead and watch them. You're free to watch any video or any teaching to get caught up. But now we're here. We're in the Holy of Holies. We're in the most holy place. We have bypassed the torn veil. All right. Now you got to understand. In the last teaching when I was talking about the veil. Okay, the veil wasn't torn in Moses' time. Okay, the veil didn't become torn until it was in the temple, Herod's temple, the second temple. All right, and we kind of sped up through time for teaching's sake to show you the difference between the veil that was not torn and the veil that was torn. Okay, but we're beyond that now. We are looking at the ark. So we're going to go to the scriptures. You ready? Okay, here we go. In the book of Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 25, all right, verses 10 through 22. And I'm going to read these scriptures, okay? And they shall make, now this is Yahweh talking to, or giving commandments to Moses, all right, to give to the children of Israel. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood, or acacia. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. Okay, those are the measurements. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the dimensions of the ark. Okay, you can do that research on your own. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it. So it was made of acacia wood, called shittim wood. All right, carved and shaped. And then it was overlaid inside and out with pure gold. Okay, so. And shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. So there was a crown around this box, okay, called the ark. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof, and 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. So the staves that were put through the rings on both sides used to carry the ark were shittim wood, or acacia wood, and they too were overlaid with pure gold. All right? And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. The staves were to stay in the rings of the ark always and never be taken out. Because who knew when Yahweh was going to say it's time to mount up and go somewhere else? And thou shalt put into the ark of the testimony, which I shall give thee. All right, listen to this. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat, listen, even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another toward the mercy seat, shall the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there will I meet thee. I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims that are before me. Okay, rather, that are upon the ark of the testimony. And listen, he says, of all things which I will give thee in commandment. Look, I got to read this again because I don't think we understand what this is implying here. Listen, I'm going to read verse 22 again. And there I will meet with thee and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat. Yahweh says, I'm going to meet you in the holy place. Matter of fact, he says, I'm going to meet you in the most holy place, in the Holy of Holies. I'm going to meet you at the mercy seat. Okay? I will meet with thee. All right? And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat. He says, I will commune with you. I will begin to fellowship with you. I will talk with you. I will speak to you from the mercy seat, from a place of mercy. Oh, it's getting better. I promise you. Watch. Okay, from between the two cherubims, which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. Everything that I have as far as a commandment, instruction to give to the children of Israel, I'm going to meet with you right here at the mercy seat to give you instructions from between the two cherubims from a place of mercy. I'm going to speak to you concerning my people. All right. So we have read the text. And I must go on to talk about, we know how the Ark of the Covenant or the Ark of the Testimony. Notice the Bible calls it testimony. The testimony, I want you to put the testimony in the Ark. What testimony is he talking about? There are three things that constitutes the testimony. And those three things are the 2 tablets of stones whereupon are written the 10 commandments that houses or that are comprised of all of the law. There are 613 mitzvot or laws, but the 10 just like is a compact version of all of it. Okay? And then the second part of the testimony is the rod that budded. It's Aaron's rod that budded. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the third one is the manna. The Lord told Moses to put some manna in a jar and put it before the ark. Okay? Okay, so if you will look at the ark is always symbolic of the throne of Yahweh, the throne of God, the place where God dwells, the place where the kabod or the Shekinah of God or of Yahweh dwells. Okay. Notice how he told Moses to make the lid or the mercy seat for the ark. Make the mercy seat, and then on both ends of the mercy seat, I want you to put a cherub facing each other with their wings stretched on high above, covering the mercy seat. Their faces toward the mercy seat. Wow. I'm giggling because you guys are about to, I'm telling you, just stick around for a minute. All right, it's all God. As my brother Apostle G can say, it's all God. All right. Okay, let me say hey to some folk real quick because I'm kind of bad about that. So who's here? Hello, Marlene. Hello, Rakisha. Consuela, how you doing? Hello, Mr. Collier. Let's see. Letitia, how are you? Apostle Cassandra, how you doing? And Apostle G. Gregory Farmer, hello. All right. Now, to everybody else who's going to come later, hello. God bless you. I love you. I'm saying this in advance because I'm not going to be able to stop and speak to y'all. All right? So I have to keep going. All right. So we're going to talk about what a cherub is. Okay. Our first mention of a cherub, the Bible first mentions a cherub in the book of Bereshit or Genesis, chapter 3, verse 24. After he had cast Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden because they had disobeyed God, the glory had been stripped from them, and now, they were on a death course to be redeemed later. Okay. But they were cast out. And the Bible says in Genesis 3 and 24, he drove man out and stationed the cherubim and the flaming whirling sword east of the Garden of Eden to guard the way of the tree of life. lest they eat of that tree and live forever in their sin. All right. So, it doesn't really tell you what a cherub is, though. We know that a cherub is a protector. Now, the Bible says that a cherub or a cherub, it's way different from what we in the Western Hemisphere have imagined it to be, or have been fed by the media that cherubs are. A cherub or a cherubim is not a little fat little baby with a bang, with wings, with a bow and arrow, blowing kisses. Okay, that's not what a cherub is. Okay, I'm going to tell you what the Bible says. All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 16. We're going to walk through some scriptures, so just be patient. All right. I believe in verifying everything with and by the word of God. Okay. Isaiah, Yeshaya, not Isaiah. That is incorrect. I just thought I'd throw that out there for a lot of y'all who now have been hearing, some of our brothers, archbishops and bishops from Africa and from some other places say, the book of Isaiah. No, that's wrong. The right pronunciation is Yeshaya. Okay? So if you say Isaiah in Hebrew, the real pronunciation is Yeshaya, not Isaiah. Okay? I had to throw that out there, guys. That's been killing me. It's like an itch that I had to scratch. Okay, Isaiah, Yeshaya 14 verses 12 through 16 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth tremble, that did shake the kingdoms, that made the whole world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners?" Listen, let's go to Jeremiah, or Jeremiah, 4, verses 23 through 26. "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, in the heavens, and they had no light. And behold, the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly." What's happening here? Verses 1 and 2 of Genesis chapter 1, where it says, "In the beginning God created heaven and earth," and then all of a sudden the earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. Okay, between verses 1 and 2, this is what happened in Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 23 through 26. "When he beheld, and lo, the earth was without form and void." Verse 24, "I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens were fled. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord, and by his fierce anger." All right, if you study the Bible for any length of time, if you had any formal training, you will know that the Bible itself is not in chronological order. Okay, so there are different places where things pops up as a reference to something that happened in the past. Okay, sometimes futuristic, but you have to do your homework. You have to do the homework and be led by the Spirit of Yahweh. Okay, now let's go to Ezekiel or Yecheskel. Chapter 28, verse 12. It says, "Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, who was possessed by the devil, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty." That's what a cherub is, full of wisdom. It means, a cherub means it's overflowing wisdom. Okay? Now, verse 13. "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes, instruments, was prepared in thee, was in him, coming out of him, in the day that thou was created." Okay. Verse 14. "Thou art," are you ready for this? This is the key. Verse 14. This is what Yahweh is saying to the spirit of Satan. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. Covereth what? He was an anointed cherub that covered what? What did he cover? I wonder. And I have set thee so. The Lord hath set him so. Yahweh set him in that position, in that place. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire, which are the gemstones. Thou wast perfect in all thy ways, or in thy ways, from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity. Iniquity. If you go to the way in the search bar, type in iniquity and search, you'll see a video where I'm talking about iniquity. You need to see that, okay? Because I'm going in depth, all right, with iniquity. Till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub. Lucifer, who is now Satan, the devil, the adversary, accuser of the brethren, the dragon in Revelations. He was once a covering cherub. All right. I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Meaning he will strip him of the glory. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. Lucifer, meaning light bearer or light bringer. Okay? I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities. Sanctuaries? He defiled his sanctuaries? Really? Sanctuary is normally in a holy place, a church. Okay. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. They shall be a terror, or thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more. Okay. So, we know that the two cherubs on the mercy seat, the Ark of the Covenant, is a replica, a symbology, a symbol, a mock reproduction of the very throne of God. And we know that Lucifer was a covering cherub. And on the mercy seat, there are two cherubs, one on each end, and they are both spreading their wings, covering the mercy seat. Lucifer, you just saw it in the Bible. He was a covering cherub. He was one who covered. He covered the mercy seat. Oh my God. Man, look, do your research. Okay. All right, Ezekiel, Yekesco. All right, chapter 1, verses 4 through 10. Now we get to see what a cherub actually looks like. A cherub wasn't a pretty, handsome man with long blonde hair with European features. Okay? That's not what an angel looked like. I know Hollywood told us that, but that's not what it looked like. Why am I going through all of this? Because it's significant. It means something. We've skipped over it far too long. Now let's address it. Okay? What does it have to do with our worship? Everything. Because how you see God is indicative of how you will approach God, how you will respect God, how you will worship or receive from God, how you perceive Him. Okay. We've been worshiping wrong because we've been looking at Him in the wrong light. We've been looking at Him with the wrong lens. Keep looking. Yekeskel, Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 4 through 10. The Bible reads, Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Kebar, that the heavens were open, and I saw visions of God. This is Yekeskel, Ezekiel. He was among the captives. He was among the slaves. He was a slave. He was captive. He was in bondage. During the time that they were taken into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 2. This man is having a vision from God in captivity. God is saying to you, you're not going to begin to see God until you are held captive. God has got to arrest some of y'all so that you can get in a place where you can see heaven open up. The heaven ain't going to open until you're in bondage. You don't believe it? Keep living. All right. Verse 2. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim, captivity. Verse 3. The word of the Lord, the Divad Elohim, came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest. Ezekiel was a priest. Not just a prophet, he was a priest. He was a prophetic priest. The son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans, by the river of Kebar. And the land, or the hand of the Lord was there upon him. Okay. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was round about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, or fire. Out of the midst of the fire. Listen. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. Not 3, 4. Okay? And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. How many of you know that the Lord will come to you as you are, like you are? Okay? He will come to you. I imagine if he revealed himself to a lion, he will come as a lion. All right. Listen. And every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. 4 faces, 4 wings, 4 living creatures. Okay. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished bronze. And they had the hand of a man under their wings, on their 4 sides. And they 4 had their 4 faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, verse 10. They 4 had the face of a man, the face of a lion on the right side. They 4 had the face of an ox on the left side. And they 4 also had the face of an eagle, which was apparently behind. That's what a cherub looks like. That's what angels look like. They don't look like you and me. But they can, because they have the face of a man. So they can approach you in the spiritual state that you're in, or the need for your spiritual dilemma, or whatever message God is trying to convey to you. He will approach you as that, with that face. Okay. Yekeskel, chapter 10, Ezekiel chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. Yes, I'm going through a lot of scripture. Takes a little bit of discipline to go through a lot of scripture. So we're going to go all around Jerusalem. We're going to come back and see what these things are saying concerning the Ark of the Covenant. Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament there was above the head of the cherubims, there appeared over them as it was a sapphire stone, and as the appearance of the likeness of a throne. And he spake unto the man clothed with the linen, and said, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thine hand with the coals from the fire from between the cherubims. and scattered them over the city, and he went in my sight. Now the cherubim stood on the right side of the house when the man went in, and the cloud filled the inner court. Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, and the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory. Okay? And the sound of the cherubim's wings was heard even to the outer courts, as the voice of the Almighty God when he speaks. Whenever the Lord is speaking, that's because the cherubs are flapping their wings. Oh my God. The voice of thunder, they're flying. The cherubs are flying. God is speaking. That's how you know the word of God is moving. Yeshua HaMashiach, the throne of God, he's moving when the cherubs are flapping their wings, when they're flying, when they're going from one place to another. And they don't turn, they go straight forward. So if on the right side, the face of a lion, if they go that way, then he's approaching whoever he needs to get to, whatever nation, whatever man, woman, boy, or girl, as the face of a lion, with the face of a lion, with the temperament, with the mentality, with the disposition of the face. So for whatever face, whatever way he come, whatever direction, if it's an ox, if he's going that way, so somebody need a burden bearer, somebody need to be pulled out of some stuff, somebody need sacrifice. Okay, so I did a whole teaching about the face of God. Just type whatever you need in the search bar, and you should be able to find it. So that's what a cherub looks like. So now let's go back to the mercy seat. Let's go back to the Ark of the Covenant. The lid, the top of it, there was a mercy seat, and on both ends of the mercy seat was a cherub. Now you know what they look like. They didn't look like a pretty little feminine little man or woman or whatever, or androgynous creature. No, a cherub, the vision, the revelation of a cherub was given to Moses, was given to the Israelites. They knew that a cherub had 4 faces. And that's what was on the curtain or the veil. It was stitching of the 4 faces of the cherub. So now you have this cherub on both sides. And why did I bring up Lucifer? I'm going to tell you why. It's because Lucifer was once a cherub that covered. See, God gave Moses this revelation of the throne through the Ark of the Testimony, or the Ark of the Covenant, to be a place where God would meet him to give instructions for Israel, a place where the glory of the Kabbalah, the Shekinah, can dwell for a time. Okay? But the instruction had to come from between the 2 cherubims. Okay? So the cherubim represents overflowing wisdom, right? So you had these 4 creatures who made up the throne of God, or the throne chariot of God. Okay, and then you had 2 cherubs on each side of the mercy seat. We know that Lucifer at one point was a cherub that covered. Now we also know that the Bible called him the anointed cherub. So he was one that covered. So he was called the anointed cherub. And we know that the anointed one is in English called Christ. But in his case, we know that Lucifer is now Satan, or the adversary, the devil, who is now and will be the anti-Messiah, or the antichrist, anointed cherub that covered. Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus Christ, who sits on the right hand of God, making intercession for you and me, who left the throne of God to come down in a flesh suit so that he can live as men, who would be tempted in all points and not sin, who would offer himself up, his body up as a sacrifice for the sins of the whole world, to redeem man back to Yahweh by his blood. He was called the anointed one. He left the throne. He left the side of God. Why did he always teach? And a certain man had 2 sons. I'll let you research that. Lucifer, to this day, Satan, although he is evil, he's still a son. Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ, is the only begotten Son, the only one who came through a woman. All right? God, the presence of God, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, who came through the flesh as a man and fully God. Satan, or Lucifer, who became Satan, who was also an anointed one who covered the mercy seat, who was kicked away, cast away from the throne of God. He will also come through flesh. Matter of fact, he's already here. The Antichrist is here. All right? So he has a begotten Son. Okay? Filled with Satan. Fully man, fully devil. All right, do your research. That's all I got to say. Okay. All right, I hear you. Now, seeing that we have two cherubs that represent two anointed ones that covered the mercy seat, because Yeshua is now at the right hand of the Father, covering the mercy seat. And when the Lord speaks to you and me, he speaks from a place of mercy. Yeshua is making intercession. Satan, he wants to destroy. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy everything about you and me because we look too much like God. We have been given access to Godhood, to Christhood, to Messiahship. Dirt. And he was made from fire, so he thinks he's better than us. But we have fire living on the inside of us. We are pure fire in the spirit. So guess what? Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. What does this have to do with anything? It has everything to do with everything. Yes. You got to dig. All this surface teaching. Dig. Dig. Okay. Now, Moses. This is something that you need to see. Okay, I'm going to take this. See my staff back here? All right. This staff, of course, you can see, it is a serpent. Okay? What does it symbolize and what does it mean? Huh? What does it symbolize and what does it mean? All right. I know you've seen this thing behind me in all my videos, right? Well, this was made for me in the Bahamas. And the reason why I got it is because it symbolizes the mission that I'm on. All right? I ain't Moses. I'm a type of Moses, but I'm not Moses. I'm not Aaron. I'm a type of Aaron, but I'm not Aaron. Modern day, you could call me Moses. You could call me Aaron. But just call me Lamont. Now, when Moses went to Pharaoh's court, the Lord told him to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. I have preached this thing for years, and I've been preaching it wrong until now. I was convinced that when Moses, and if you look at the Ten Commandments, the movie, you know, it'll tell you what's going on. But I thought that Moses cast down the rod that God gave him. It was Moses' rod that turned into a serpent. And then when Jannes and Jambres, the two priests in the court of Pharaoh, cast down their rods, mimicked, did the same thing that God did. But the rod of Moses, I thought, ate up Jannes and Jambres' rod that turned to snakes, symbolizing God's power over the devil, right? Check this out. That wasn't really what happened. What happened was, if you read the scriptures, go back, read it. Okay, I'm not going to tell you where it is. Go do some research, all right? But the Bible says that it was Aaron's rod. It wasn't Moses' rod. It was Aaron's rod that was cast down on Pharaoh's court floor and turned into a serpent. It was Aaron's rod. You see, Moses had a speech impediment. Okay, I don't know if he stuttered or he had a lisp, but he had a speech impediment. And the Lord granted even recommended for Aaron to be his spokesman. Read in your Bible. So we have Moses, who is a type of the law, symbol of the law. And then we have Aaron, who is a type of the priesthood. It was the beginning of the priesthood. Okay? So what does this mean? That Moses, who was the lawgiver, had to have an interpreter who was the head of the priesthood. What does that mean? God has established it in his kingdom order, for the priesthood to interpret the law. Did you get that? Okay. So, why am I saying this? What does this have to do with anything? It has everything to do with everything. It's all connected. It's interconnected. Keep in mind the two cherubs. Keep in mind Lucifer was a covering cherub. Keep in mind that Yeshua was a son just like Lucifer was. Okay? Both of them will have a begotten son. Okay? Jesus was the begotten son, but Lucifer will have his own begotten son. Okay? Lucifer will come in the flesh. Okay? In this last day. He's already here. Just haven't manifested himself yet, but he's here. So he's the greatest copycat in the universe. So what does that mean, though? The cartoon. You know, back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, they had the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. Who you gonna listen to? You know, little red devil with the horns and the tail. You got the angel with the wings, and you know they're talking him in the ear. And they got that idea from the Ark of the Covenant. It's all connected. Listen. Why did God tell Moses to have Aaron cast his staff on the floor? The staff of the priest turned into a snake. It was the staff of the priest that turned into a serpent that ate up the false priests, because Jannes and Jambres were priests of Pharaoh. So the priest of God, Aaron, cast down his staff and devoured Pharaoh's staffs that turned serpent, symbolizing that God's priesthood dominated over the devil's priesthood, and still and will continue to dominate over Satan's priesthood, or the adversary's priesthood, ambassadors or representatives. So, look at this now. Keep in mind the two cherubs, good and evil. The father who had two sons. Keep in mind that in Pharaoh's court, in that room, in that very atmosphere, you had good and you had evil. And they were both able to do the very same thing in the same room. That's why we need the Spirit of God. That's why we need to have the spirit of discernment. Because in our worship, we always talk about how, you know, the presence of God drives out Satan. Not necessarily so. Because you see, the presence of God was in there with Pharaoh. And he had his own priest, which was symbolizing the presence of darkness. Okay, so you had God and his men. God gave instructions, cast down your staff. And at that point, it was out of the man's hands. It was out of the priest's hands. All he had to do was just perform the instruction. Just execute. Throw down your staff in faith. And now, from that point, it was Yahweh's job to perform the miracle, which he did. And Yahweh turned the staff into a snake. Well, Jannes and Jambres did the very same thing. And their staffs turned into snakes. But as the story reads, you know who won. But what does that tell us? That tells you that in the same sanctuary, in the same courtroom, or the same throne room, in the same space, in the same area, the same place, The devil will try to do the same things that God would do, and would do it. It will look like God. It will sound like God. It will act like God. It will move like God. How many of us are being duped, are being hornswoggled, are being hoodwinked, cable-toed? How many of us are being deceived, thinking that it's God when it's not God? And it's all in the same room, with all the tongue speaking, with all the pew hopping, foot stomping, hand clapping, with all of the decreeing, prophesying, with all of the declaring, with all of the binding and loosing. The presence of God and the devil can still occupy the same place at the same time. Yes, we know God is going to win. But the devil will do what God is doing because he's a copycat. He's the biggest copycat in the universe. He is not original. But who can discern the hand of the Lord? It's about worship. Restoring true worship back into the house of Yahweh. Okay, so, yeah. So now, that out of the way, let's look at the testimony itself. What is the testimony? The 10 Commandments. The 2 tablets of stone that has the totality or condensed version of the law that contains 613 mitzvot or commandments. And you had the rod. Now, the story about the rod is Aaron, God was commanded to take all of the staffs of each tribe, okay, each of the 12 tribes, present their staffs, and then over time we'll see which one the Lord would choose to be the priest of Israel, to carry on the work of the Lord. Who will be the one chosen to do the Lord's work in the Lord's house? Who will it be? We will know by looking at the staff over time. And so all of the 12 presented their staffs or their rods. And then when they all came later to look at the staffs to see what the Lord would say, Aaron's rod was the only one that had buds on it, leaves, and almonds. So now we know his staff came from an almond tree, right? So we know that's how the Lord chose the priesthood. That's how we know the Lord chose Aaron to be the priest or the father of the priest, because his rod was the only one that budded. That was a testimony that it would be Levi or the house of Aaron that would lead Israel in worship throughout all generations. Okay? That's part of the testimony. So you got the testimony of the law, the written law, okay, the mind of God, and then you have the rod that budded that tells you that it is the house of Aaron, okay, that will lead the work of the Lord, that will conduct the work of God, of the priesthood. And then you had the jar of manna. The Lord told Moses, get some manna and put it in a jar and put it before the Lord. Put it before the ark. He told him to do that with the rod. So that's the testimony. The testimony is that the Lord spoke his law. He wrote it down with his own finger. All right. Moses had to write it all over again after he destroyed the first set because he was angry at the Israelites. But, you know, that's the testimony that the Lord gives law, that the Lord has given directives on how we should live, how we should act, how we should treat each other, how we should treat our enemies, how we should conduct business, how we should conduct our affairs, our marriages, our homes, our children, our friends, our neighbors. Everything concerning life the Lord has given in the law, the testimony, the mitzvot of Israel. And he said that it's going to be the house of Aaron that's going to lead this, that's going to carry this out, that's going to enforce the law, that's going to enforce the mitzvot. It's going to be the house of Aaron. And the manna represents food, bread, not made by hands of man, but bread that comes from God, from heaven itself. Okay? That means the law, the 10 commandments given by Moses. Remember the Mount of Transfiguration, when the Lord, Yeshua the Messiah, had Peter, James, and John up there on the mountain with him. And then they saw the Lord Jesus, and then Moses and Elijah were standing with them, and they were glorified. They were gleaming and, bright. And then Peter was like, man, it's good for us to be here. Let us build a temple for you, one for you, Jesus, one for Elijah, one for Moses. And the Lord said, wait a minute, you done missed the whole point. That's not what this is about. This ain't about building a building. This is not building a temple. This ain't about building a church because you got a revelation, because you are privy to the things of God. Now you can see what God is doing. Now you want to build a church because you feel like you got a message. You feel like because you've been in the presence of God, now it's time for you to build a church. That's basically what the Mount of Transfiguration was about. It was trying to let you know that Jesus did not come to destroy the law and the prophets. The law represented by Moses and Elijah representing the prophets. He came to fulfill the law and the prophets. He was a symbol. He was the personification of Elijah and Moses. He was the personification of the old and new. He was the personification of the 10 commandments, the mitzvah, the Torah. Okay? So, now, I need you to see something, because how we've seen the 2 cherubs, we've seen how there was Moses and Aaron, who was the priest and the prophet. We need to let you see how John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus Christ. So John the Baptist was trained to be a priest until he started getting a word from God because of the sins of the other priests, and started telling them what he was saying, and they kicked him out of the temple, and he started, living in the wilderness. He was homeless. They didn't want him in the church because he was exposing them. They didn't want him in the church. His father Zacharias was training him to be a priest, but the priest turned into a prophet, and he was the forerunner of the Son of God, who was also called the prophet, and now the chief priest, the head priest. Okay. You see that? Okay. So, the manna represents the very word of God, the rhema, not just the logos. See, the 10 commandments, or the Torah, represents the written word, the spoken word. Okay, that is the word that is given by oracle. All right, that is the word that's given by mouth, by voice. Okay, that is read off paper or read off stones, the logos. Okay, but when you have the manna represents the actual revelation of the word of God. This is the spirit of the law. You got the letter of the law, and then you got the spirit of the law. That's what manna represents. It is the spirit of what is being said. It is the revelation. Okay, revelation knowledge. It is actually the voice of God going straight into your hearing, into your heart. All right, that knowing, because you see in the spirit through the eyes of faith, what the word is saying. Okay, now we all are priests. We are priests. All right, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. Okay, and the law is not dead. Okay, we are to always, all right, keep. All right, remember. All right, remember the law. Okay, yes, we're saved by grace. We know all that. That's basic. Okay, so a lot of us who are in Christendom have done away with the law because we don't need that no more. That was just for them back then. Now we just need the New Testament. No, you can't have the new without the old. Okay, first of all, the Lord even said that the law is holy. The law is the mind of God. If the law was not important, he wouldn't have told Moses to put the law in the Ark of the Covenant. That's a part of your worship, the law, the Torah. So how are you going to get rid of that which is a part of the Torah? How are you going to get rid of that which is a part of the voice of God? So when the Lord speaks from between the 2 cherubims, when he speaks from a place of mercy, from the mercy seat concerning you, he is speaking from Torah through his priest, Yeshua, the word, who is the manna, who is the spoken voice of God. That's the testimony. Okay. So, that's really it in a nutshell. I wish I had more time. I don't want to take too much of your time, but man, I have more notes. I got some more stuff, but I hear the Lord. So, hey, That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to go further. I pray that you have gotten something out of this teaching. I pray that the Lord has revealed unto you how he is trying to restore true worship within us as individuals and then us as a corporate body in our local assemblies. But the whole series of Ha'Mishkan has been to guide us back to true worship, the true order of Yahweh in the local church, how we are to conduct services, how we are to observe worship, how we are to approach the throne of God in our daily living. So it's the Lord's blueprint. Okay, it's Yahweh's blueprint, and the Lord is never going to give a man or a woman a blueprint that deviates from the original blueprint. Okay, now let me tell you something for those of you who are going to go on to study the temple. All right, there's a slight difference between the tabernacle and the temple. The tabernacle was meant to just, it's like a tent. You put it up and then you tear it down when God says it's time to go. All right, then you put it back up somewhere else, and then you tear it down whenever the presence is gone and leads you somewhere else. So it was portable. It was a portable place of worship. But that's where God is bringing us back to. Portable worship. Jesus came. He even said, look, you tear this temple. Look. This temple right here, tear it down and I'll build it up in 3 days. They were like, look, it took us 46 years to build this temple. How are you going to build it up in 3 days? They didn't understand. He was talking about himself. But the Lord came to challenge, to rebuke, and to tear down the stones of the temple. He said there will not be left one stone upon another. And the Lord says, yes, I will build a temple not made with hands. Will I put my spirit in? I will pour out my spirit. I will live in. I will dwell. I will commune. I will sit with them. In a temple not made with hands. That's why the Lord got rid of the temple. So that he can go back to Ha'Mishkan. The portable temple that moves when God moves. That sits where God sits. And when the Lord said, okay, you know what? We need to go here. So we can pack up and go somewhere else. And not just be set in one place. Where all of these pious people are lording over us. Nah. Yivrakaka Yahweh Vayishmereka. Ya'er Yahweh Panavaleka Vikuneka. Yesa Yahweh Panavaleka Vayasameka Shalom. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his face to you and give you peace. Shalom Aleichem. I love you. May heaven smile upon you.